welcome to my horrible backdrop. This is the finished product of This Old Gat Episode 2, the Springfield 1903A3. It's all put together, it's all finished. It's done in black walnut stain and tung oil. You probably remember this from a week ago. So anyway, to continue the Let's Finish What Somebody Else Started series, I've got this. And I did remember to set it to 60 frames a second this time, so the video quality should be a little bit better. This, in its glory, is partially assembled because I got really excited when I found most of the parts, but I'm going to have to take it all back apart for the mock-up anyway. So what you're looking at here, what you're looking at here is a 1960 model Winchester Model 70 receiver. The only original part on this gun, actually, aside from the trigger. Another aftermarket barrel. I believe this is actually a Winchester barrel, however. I called this the Amalgam rifle because I traced back the serial number to 1960's production date. But this is chambered in Winchester Magnum, 264 Winchester Magnum, which is the smallest belted Magnum based off of the 375 H&H Magnum that you can get. It was originally invented, I believe, in 1959. And now my dog wants to see. This is Tony. He wants to say hi. Hi, Tony. Firstborn, first litter. Anyway, Winchester Belted Magnum came out after the 64 model. This is a pre-64 receiver, but as far as I can tell, this is a post-64 model. Matter of fact, from my reading, there was a like a resurgence of the Model 70, and the 264 sort of came back in the early to mid-2000s. I suspect that this barrel is dated around the same time. It's just way too clean, and it's unused. So, again, like the last gun, that one there, the machining marks are all over the place, so I'm going to have to shoe shine this one too. This gun actually is only about 4 inches longer than the Springfield, but it's going to have a lot more kick. But this is exactly how I received it, minus these little small parts that I put together. These were in boxes. It was already tapped for Redfield scope mounts, and this stock, I believe, was handcrafted by the gentleman who passed, whose estate that I was overtaking, or looking over, I guess you should say. Anyway, this was turned over to me just like the Springfield. This guy's a really good woodworker. The nice thing about this particular stock is I think he was farther along on this rifle than he was with that one. The finish work is pretty much done. I'm only going to have to hit right under here a little bit. It's just a little grainy. But other than that, the cap is actually part of it. I guess it's bonded somehow. So I'm not going to mess with that. Sling swivel will come out in the back. I'll loosen up the one in the front so I can hang it. The bolt was relatively complete. Somebody had dropped the firing pin with the gun out of the receiver, which makes it incredibly difficult to reverse. So I had to fight that for about 3 days before I had enough hand strength and leverage to pull that back into shape. So this works now. Safety's on the side, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest. It's kind of in the way, especially with the scope in the way. Speaking of scopes, what I'll be using, I bought this at an auction along with the scope that came with, but it's just a Simmons. I believe it's a 2.5 by 10 by 52. This thing is a monster, and I went and got the 1-inch Monstrum high profile scope rings, just like I did for that rifle, because when you work the bolt, it still barely clears, but it clears, so it's good enough. It's going to make my cheek a little, it's going to turn this into a jaw rest instead of a cheek rest until I get a pad for it, but I'm okay with it because this is going to be a bench gun anyway. So bolt was complete. It's sorted out. Stock's pretty good. I've got to clean up just under here a little bit. It's already been bedded. Guy did a really good job bedding this one. And there's no cracks, no splits, no nothing. There's also no magazine box, if you can see there. So, need parts. And like last time, Numeric to the rescue. Just got here today, actually. So, what do we have here? 264 Winchester magazine box. And I believe this is, yeah, the front and rear screws. They didn't have the middle one, however, which I didn't discover it had one until I started poking around. They didn't have it. Thank God for Midwest Gunworks. They had it. Now, they were a little confusing because they had other sizes. Both were listed, however, there were different lengths. So, there it is, right there. And the way I got the measurement for this is I had bought these, which are like long wing nuts basically, but it's made for the Model 70 receiver, so you can mock up the gun. I only use the front and the rear to just mock it up. And then what I ended up doing was I fed the middle one with the short one here, and then, I don't know if it's going to show up on camera, I marked it, and then I measured that for length, and that's how I got that screw length there, which is actually about a thou shorter, but whatever, it'll fit. So anyway, thank you to Numeric. They got here pretty quick this time because no frost apocalypse and ice storms, and I had power and water. And thanks to Midwest Gunworks for having that one screw and fulfilling an order for just one screw, even though I did pay a pretty penny for shipping. Okay, well, I just dropped something. Anyway, so let's talk about the first of many problems. So this is the magazine box here. And this is a Winchester 264 Magnum round. So it does fit in here, as you can see. See that? Fits properly. And then this fits into the receiver quite tight. It clips under there. Feed lips go underneath there. Takes a little tappy with the hammer. It sits like that. So that part's okay too. Screw hole back here is really close, but I think it'll clear just. Now, here's my issue. This is the custom stock, and if you see there's little red marks there, it's because when I take this magazine and I drop the box in the front over here, it won't clear back here. So, I suspect that this guy had originally built this stock for something, or the same Model 70, but in a different caliber with a shorter box. And now I have to nip off pretty much all you see there in red. Just drop this in here, and then I'll take my router and I'll clean that up in there until this fits in there nice and easy. Then I can go back to trying to fit this, because the next problem I ran into was that detent. Originally I didn't have it, and I didn't know there was one, so I was like, why is the bolt stop not working? And I bought a spring for a post 64, which hooks around here and into here, but this is all cut differently because it's a pre-64. So I made a detent out of a piece of steel, and now it works. See? Isn't that cool? Don't ask me how many times I lost that little bugger before I got it in there. It's worse than AR-15 pins. So anyway, that takes care of that problem. Then I have a new problem, which I'm not sure if maybe that's why this was never completed, but if I drop this gently back in the stock for a second, hang on. I'm gonna do this one-handed. Okay, if I drop that in the stock, right? Here's the opening to my receiver. Here's the round. So now I'm trying to think of how this guy was going to build this, because this is obviously a shorter receiver, see? Unless he thought you're going to feed the rounds in like that, right? Because, I mean, once the round's expelled, the brass can fly out. That's not a problem. The ejector works. But how did he intend to feed this in here? Like, I only think that the way I think he meant to do it is you start in from the back and you work your way down, right? And then it fits. That's no problem. I'm kind of wondering if maybe they cut these receivers wider. I don't know. And if you see these little dimples here, that mark there and that mark there, it's because my scope tube is it needs to be, or it's this much shorter, so I have to make 2 new dimples here to fit the front sling mount, or scope mount, which that's fine. I mean, I'm basically cutting grooves like a Picatinny rail at that point. I'm just gonna take a router and go straight down and then bolt it on. So that's not really that big of a deal, but this receiver thing's kind of... I bumped the button. Anyway, so I did a little bit of homework just a while ago, and I have got the understanding that this is the correct receiver based off of this cutout here, the shape of this receiver. This is what they call the Winchester Short Magnum receiver. And this indentation mark here is how you can tell if it will work. This is actually 458. It's not stamped all the way through, but it does say 458, which means this is the correct receiver for this honkin' big round. So it does say that this receiver will take cartridges unfired up to 3.35 of an inch, I believe. Yeah. Where this is 3.340. So this will fit. I guess what you do have to do is you have to feed it in from the rear and then push down. Which, okay, whatever. I guess that's what we're doing. But for my own peace of mind, this is the correct receiver. Thank God I looked this up and did my homework. Otherwise, I would have been pretty pissed. So yeah, this box magazine is going to be a little strange to fit. But now I've got to go and clearance the stock for that to drop in. And then once I do that, I can do another mock-up. And then hopefully I can get this pig put together, because I was really excited to do this today. And I've run into problem after problem after problem. But these things aren't Legos like ARs. I mean, you do have to understand that I'm working with parts from 1960, parts from, I believe, somewhere in the 2000s here. And then this is a new old stock that I got from Numeric. And then these screws. And then I still got to deal with the scope mount here. Yeah, trials and tribulations, I guess, huh? Anyway, let me get to work on clearancing. Let me explain the process. I can't show you on camera, but basically all I'm going to do is I'm going to take my router and I'm just going to start eating away at this little by little until all the red is missing, and then I'll try to dry fit the magazine box. And as soon as that magazine box fits, I'm going to stop, because I don't want to chew into the bedding too much. That's already been done. It's been really nicely done. And once that box is in, the next thing you should see is all this put back together, hopefully with the correct screws in it. So sit tight, and maybe I'll stop bumping the camera. So here we are mocked up. As you can see, I haven't done the finish on the barrel or the wood yet. One of the things I like to take pride with on my channel is I like to show you when I screw up. So here it is. My magazine here is incorrect for this gun. This is a post-64 model magazine. I kept trying to get it to fit. I clearanced the stock, the wood in the stock for it, and I beat on it a little bit, and I bent a little here and pried a little there, and Then I realized this is just gonna be too big. This is too thick top to bottom. This whole back wall's not supposed to be there because it gets into the way of the receiver screw. None of it, it doesn't fit. And then I thought, well, maybe I can modify it by chopping the back, shortening it down, and then putting it in, because this is just a bullet guide, basically. There's no structure for this to the gun. You know, it's got feed lips on there for the follower to pass around and not bind on anything. So it was like, I thought about modifying this, but then I kept looking at it, and it's this wall on the inner side here is plug welded to the back wall here. So if I chopped it off to this wall, the inner wall, it would just fall out of place. So that's a no-go. So essentially the rifle is built, like, it'll work as a single shot. I'm sure I could put rounds in it, but it wouldn't feed very well. So now I'm stuck looking for a Pre-64 model magazine box, which apparently is either out of stock or ridiculously expensive. So this is going to be my stop point for now until I find another one. But I went ahead and I ground the extra groove for this, so that's mounted now properly. I just basically took a Dremel and a router tool and just took my time and worked it bit by bit, matched the height of the existing groove that was slightly in front of it. But yeah, it's sitting level. Like, I haven't bolted this down. I can move this around and whatnot. But anyway, this is where I'm at for now. And I'll probably take a little break from this while I look for the box magazines. So the next time you see this, it will be, well, what can I say? It'll be towards working for the wood finish, and I'll have the box magazine installed, and that should do it. But anyway, there it is. She's all mocked up. Maybe I'll just go ahead and make this a two-parter. To be continued. Ooh, that's a new one, right? Yeah, to be continued. Anyway, thanks for watching. Smash the old like button down there. Maybe subscribe if you're new to my channel. Welcome if you are. But yeah, I guess this will be a to be continued. There will be a part 2. So see you next time.